Welcome to Daily Life in the Past. Here, we explore how ordinary people lived before modern technology and comfort shaped everyday life. If you enjoy learning about the past, feel free to leave a comment and let us know where you are watching from. And if you would like to support the channel, a like or subscription is always appreciated. Morning routines existed long before electric lights, alarm clocks, indoor plumbing, and 9-to-5 schedules. But morning did not always mean the same thing. It means today. In many places and periods, the start of the day depended on sunrise, season, weather, local custom, and the kind of work people did. It also depended on technology, the ability to make light, keep time, heat water, store food, and travel. This documentary-style explanation looks at how mornings began before modern life, across major historical settings. It focuses on practical systems, how people woke up, how they prepared their bodies and homes, how they organized time, and how they moved into work. A key point is that there was never one universal old-fashioned morning routine. A farmer's morning differed from a sailor's. A monk's differed from a city craft worker's. A wealthy household differed from a poor one. Still, many shared problems had shared solutions. First, consider the basic conditions that shaped most pre-modern mornings. Light was limited. Before widespread gas and electric lighting, nights were truly dark in most places. Indoors, light came from the hearth fire, oil lamps, candles, and cheaper lighting like rushlights. Because light was costly and dim, many people went to bed earlier than modern city dwellers and did many tasks in daylight. Heat was work. Warming a house was not as simple as turning a dial. If a household had a fire going, it needed fuel, a place to burn safely, and constant attention. If the fire went out overnight, relighting it could be slow and difficult. Water had to be carried and heated. Without taps, most water was fetched from a well, spring, river, or public fountain. Washing in the morning required not only water, but also time, privacy, soap or other cleaning agents, and somewhere to dispose of used water. Timekeeping was rough. Before cheap personal clocks, many people did not measure time by minutes. They measured by natural cues like sunrise, shadows, and meal times, and by public signals like bells. Work began when it had to. In farming communities, daylight and season drove the schedule. In towns, markets and craft work also followed daylight. Later, with large factories, work became tied to strict clock time. With those conditions in mind, the first part of the morning routine was waking up. In pre-modern societies, many people woke by light and sound, not by a private alarm. Sunrise mattered. In homes with thin shutters, small windows, or openings without glass, light entered early. Even with glass, early light was often enough to wake people, especially when combined with the sounds of animals, neighbors, and the town. Animals acted like clocks. Roosters crowed at dawn, livestock stirred, dogs moved. In rural life, the first sounds of animals could signal a new day. In some households, animals were kept close to living quarters for warmth and safety, so their activity was hard to ignore. Community sounds were important. In cities and towns, bells marked time. Church bells signaled prayer hours and public events. In many places, bells were among the most reliable shared time signals. Even if a person did not know the exact hour number, they could recognize the pattern of daily bells. Some people were awakened by other people as part of a system. In industrial towns, especially where factories demanded early starts and many workers could not afford reliable alarm clocks, a paid waker could knock on doors or tap windows. This job existed in parts of Britain, Ireland, the Netherlands, and other areas during the Industrial Revolution era. The waker used a short stick on doors or a long pole to reach windows, sometimes even shooting small peas at glass to make a sharp sound. This was a practical solution to a modern-like problem: strict start times. Inside the home, family roles mattered. In many households, someone had to get up first. That could be a servant in wealthy homes, a parent in a working home, or whoever had the earliest outdoor duties. In farm homes, the day's first worker might be the person who checked animals, rekindled the fire, or began food preparation. Another factor was sleep pattern. People in earlier centuries often did not treat sleep as one unbroken block. Evidence from early modern Europe suggests many people recognized a first sleep and a second sleep, with a waking period in between for quiet tasks, prayer, or simply resting. Historians debate how universal and how regular this pattern was, but it helps explain why waking up could be gradual. In some households, a person might already be partly awake well before full daylight. Once awake, the next phase was making the household functional. In many pre-modern homes, the hearth was the center of morning life. Keeping or relighting the fire was a major task. If embers were banked overnight under ash, a skilled person could revive them with air and small fuel. If the fire was out, relighting required tinder, kindling, and a flame source like flint and steel. This was not instant. It could take patience and practice. The quality of tinder mattered, and damp weather could make the job harder. Without a ready fire, the household could not easily warm food, heat water, or light the interior. Lighting the room was also part of the routine. A morning might begin in near darkness, especially in winter. People used small flames carefully because fire risk was constant. In crowded towns with many wooden buildings, a single mistake could spread into a large disaster. This is one reason watch systems and night patrols developed in many cities. Fire was a public danger. Next came washing and personal preparation, which worked very differently than today. Bathing daily was not the norm in many times and places, but washing parts of the body was common. People often washed hands and face, and sometimes combed hair and cleaned teeth in simple ways. Water might be cold, and heating water took effort. Soap existed, but it varied in quality and availability. In some households, a shared basin was used. In wealthier homes, servants might bring wash water to bedchambers. Clothing took time. Before modern fabrics and fasteners, dressing could involve layers, ties, pins, and careful adjustment. Clothes were valuable and often repaired repeatedly, so they were handled with care. Shoes or boots might be stiff and needed to be put on with effort. In wet seasons, the first task could include choosing what could survive mud. Another large part of morning preparation was food. Modern people often assume breakfast has always been a standard daily meal. Historically, that was not always true. In parts of medieval Europe, many peasants did not regularly eat an early breakfast. In some regions, the first main meal came later in the morning after several hours of work. For those who did eat early, breakfast could be very simple: bread, cheese, pottage leftovers, or small amounts of ale or beer. Children, the elderly, the sick, and heavy laborers were more likely to eat early. The reason was practical. Food preparation took time and fuel. If a household was trying to conserve grain, firewood, and effort, delaying a cooked meal could make sense. Also, many people were used to beginning work with little or no food and eating more after the first work period. In ancient settings, morning food patterns could be different. In ancient Rome, a small breakfast at dawn, called aentaculum, existed as part of the daily meal structure. It was often lighter than the later main meal. The details varied by class and time period. Across many eras, a morning drink could matter as much as a morning meal. Clean drinking water was not always easy to guarantee, and fermentation could make liquids safer and more stable. Low-alcohol beer or ale was common in some regions and could be consumed in small amounts, including earlier in the day. This does not mean people were seeking intoxication. Often the beverage was weak and used as a safe calorie source. For the household, feeding was not only about humans. Animals needed attention early. In farming communities, much of the morning routine centered on animals and land. Cows needed milking. Chickens needed feeding and releasing. Horses or oxen needed care before fieldwork. Waste had to be managed. These tasks could not be delayed if the household depended on the animals. Now consider how time and obligation shaped the movement from morning at home into morning at work. In religious communities, time was organized by scheduled prayer. In medieval Western monastic life, canonical hours structured the day. Lauds was tied to dawn. Prime was near the first hour of daylight. These systems helped define a shared routine: rising, washing, gathering, praying, then working. Even outside monasteries, the church's bell schedule influenced when people thought the day had truly begun. In towns, work began with the opening of gates, the start of markets, and the readiness of workshops. Craft workers often lived close to their shops. The morning could include opening shutters, setting out goods, preparing tools, and handling deliveries. Many tasks that modern businesses do in the background, inventory, setup, cleaning, heating, were physical and visible. In rural life, the schedule was more flexible in minutes, but strict in daylight. During planting and harvest seasons, people rose earlier and worked longer. In winter, they rose later and did more indoor tasks. The concept of early morning changed with the seasons because sunrise changed. The rhythm of labor also created different kinds of mornings. A farmer's morning prioritized immediate physical needs: animals, fire, water, tools, and the first push into fieldwork. The routine was built around the land's timing. A town laborer's morning often balanced household tasks with getting to a job site. If the job was construction, loading, or hauling, early arrival mattered, but the exact minute might not. If the job depended on a customer, the start could be later. A servant's morning depended on the employer's household. Servants often rose earlier than the family they served. Their routine included lighting fires in multiple rooms, fetching water, preparing clothing, and beginning breakfast service if breakfast was expected. As industrialization expanded, mornings changed in a major way. Factories created a strong need for standardized time. A farm family could begin when light allowed and adjust tasks. A factory demanded that many workers arrive together at a fixed hour. This increased the importance of clocks, bells, whistles, and paid wake-up systems. Industrial towns developed time discipline. Workers could be fined or punished for being late. The morning became less about reading the sky and more about obeying an external schedule. People had to wake in darkness during winter, even when the body might naturally sleep longer. This shift also changed morning preparation. Quick, repeatable steps became valuable: simple washing, fast dressing, portable food, and a rapid walk to work. In crowded housing, mornings could be loud and tightly timed, with many people sharing limited space, water access, and privacy. Sanitation and health were always part of morning life, even if handled differently. Without modern toilets, waste disposal took effort and planning. Chamber pots might be used indoors and emptied later. Outhouses required walking outside, sometimes in cold or rain. In cities, waste systems varied widely by place and period. The morning could include cleaning tasks to make the living space usable for the day. Household sweeping and tidying mattered because floors were often dirt, straw-covered, or made of rough boards. Cooking produced ash and soot. Smoke could enter living spaces, so a calm start of day often included real cleaning work. Now look at the tools and objects that made old mornings possible. Beds and sleeping spaces were often shared. Privacy was limited. A family might sleep in one room, sometimes in one bed. Servants might sleep near their workplace. This affected waking. When one person rose, others were disturbed. Clothing storage was simple. Many people owned fewer garments than today. A morning routine included checking what was clean enough, what could be repaired, and what matched the day's work. Food storage was limited. Without refrigeration, mornings used what could be kept safely: bread, dried foods, salted meats, cheese, grains. Fresh food might be seasonal or dependent on what could be obtained that day. Travel was slower. For many people, commuting meant walking. That made footwear, weather, and road conditions central to the morning. Mud, snow, and darkness could be daily obstacles. Finally, it helps to summarize what morning routines before modern life really show. They show that mornings were not a personal lifestyle choice. They were a system response to basic needs and constraints: light, heat, water, time signals, and the day's labor. Waking was usually tied to nature and community sound, and later to paid waking services where strict industrial time demanded it. Preparation was practical and physical: revive the fire, fetch water, wash as possible, dress carefully, and make the home ready. Eating in the early morning varied by class, health, and work. In many places it was lighter than today, or delayed until after some work. Work rhythms were shaped first by seasons and daylight, then increasingly by clocks and fixed start times as industrial systems expanded. When modern life adds electric light, reliable alarms, indoor plumbing, central heating, fast clothing, and easy food storage, the morning becomes quicker and more private. Before modern life, mornings were usually slower, more shared, and more tied to the immediate work of keeping a household functioning. That is the core lesson. Older morning routines were less about habits and more about infrastructure. The routine was the technology, the schedule, and the labor system all working together to make the day begin.